Welcome to the Authority File. I'm Bill Mickey, your host and the editorial director at Choice. We're back with another series, and before we get started, I'm extremely excited to share that the Authority File is now an award-winning podcast. That's right, we were named Best B2B Podcast at the 2023 Publisher Podcast Awards. We'll link to it in the show notes for this episode, and you can also check it out at publisherpodcastawards.com. Many thanks to Media Voices, the producer of the event, for the recognition, and of course to the amazing team here at Choice. In this 4-part series, which is brought to you with support from Rittenhouse Book Distributors, I'm joined by Nicole Gallo, Executive Vice President at Rittenhouse, a privately held distributor of titles in the health sciences. We've examined quite a bit of DEI-related collection development topics on this podcast, and I'm glad to have Nicole on the program because we haven't yet heard a distributor's approach to DEI priorities. Distributors, of course, occupy a position between the publisher and the library customer, and Rittenhouse has taken a very proactive approach to shifting its collection management practices to ensure DEI remains at the forefront of the health sciences market. In this 4th and final episode of this series, we discuss the business trends influencing the purchasing and publishing priorities around DEI, including the importance of data and how Rittenhouse sees itself fitting into library and publisher policies regarding DEI. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the importance of data to your operation. So I want to talk about that a little bit more.
Sure.
What do you consider data that's important to you, and how are you leveraging that?
I could talk all day about data.
Right.
I've often said without information, data, we don't exist.
Yeah.
We don't own any of the products that we distribute, right? So we leverage the data about the product in order to sell it.
Hmm.
The most important bit of data that drives our business is the metadata that comes in from the publishers. So without it, our customers wouldn't know we had it available for sale. They wouldn't be able to purchase it. They wouldn't be able to find it and, don't know that it's available. Our operation relies on that integration of good data.
Hmm.
We build all of our services around it. All of our websites run on that data. Our ERP internally, our customer service, everybody uses that data in their day-to-day workflows. We've had to adhere to the industry standards, right? When the industry study group said we're on to Onyx 3, guess who else had to go on to Onyx 3? Because all the publishers were making their data available that way. We utilize and conform with the standards and data. It's interesting because when we built our digital platform, there was no standard for how ebooks were delivered. And then in the last 20 years, it's now the EPUB and EPUB files.
Yeah.
So, we're revising our ebook platform to be able to take EPUB from the publisher versus XML, which is how we originally designed it way back before there was an EPUB file.
Right.
So data really does drive our business. We work with more than 500 publishers. We have to have a very disciplined way to organize that data and to bring it in. And every publisher works differently. How they make that data available, their flavor of Onyx, maybe they're not even sending a digital file. So we still have an IT and data entry department, and some of it's still entered manually, believe it or not.
No, I believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's important. The other bit of data that is really important is, of course, the topic-driven sales data. Because it really does help us identify the trends. That is what our customers are doing and what our publishers are doing. And we make that readily available. So our publishers have access to their sales data. They can look at who's buying what and when and how much. We've built a portal for them to access that data. We used to manually send out sales reports. So you can imagine, we don't want to do that. But we have the portal for them, and they can look at it by customer type, by product. And so that they can it really does inform their publishing
Hmm.
schedule. And, they gather that from all of their different aggregators and sales channels. So that data is really important for us too. And then the last thing I'll say, because I know we're running up on time here, is that data of the future. You can't open your eyes without hearing about AI and, all of the issues surrounding that in education. But we are building a new platform that will be able to track and inform more granularly the usage of content. So, right now we know a library buys a book and how many times that book is accessed, and they can see in real time, their usage stats, which
Hmm.
informs their buying decisions. But now we're going to be able to tell them, and hey, the number one search topic across all your books was X.
Yeah.
And we're going to be able to get more granular with the information because we're building in new technologies. So, I mean, we know we need to protect privacy and identity and all of those things, and that will be built in.
Mm.
But it is really going to be able to get more granular with the information and the trends. And it's going to really, I think it's going to help to maximize budgets for the library. It's going to better inform content creation. And then the final part of that is that we want to have different models of selling content. So we want to be able to go back to the publisher and say, this library doesn't really need to buy this whole book.
Hmm.
Right. And, this is can we find a model that we can agree on where they can hit your books across the spectrum certain number of times for a certain price, or we're still and everyone's grappling with that.
Yeah.
But we're now going to have the data to inform those decisions, and I'm really excited about that, because as we look to the future, technology is really going to help us utilize our data more effectively.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's a very exciting thing to watch. But there is like little bits of that happening right now, right? I mean, in
Yes.
terms of what the purchasing
Hmm.
models are, like you can do chapter downloads or something,
Yes.
right? That
Yes.
does, okay. But you're talking even more granular than that?
Yes. and
Yeah.
and you can do a chapter download, but and certainly I don't have the answer here, or we'd be doing it. Um, how does the publisher pay the author?
Oh,
Right. So that's the never ending
yes.
unanswered question.
Hmm.
So they price by the chapter so that they can go back and they can pay the publisher appropriately. After you get to so many chapters, you've paid for the whole book. You might as well should have purchased the
Yeah.
whole book, and you get
Right.
access to the whole book. It has to be more granular than that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, we have to find a way to satisfy everybody in the equation.
Right.
And so that's the elephant in the room. But that's what data is going to be able to better inform.
Yeah,
Right. And
absolutely.
as an aggregator, at times it's really hard to say, hey, big publisher over here, your content is as important and worth the same price as this, publisher down here only has one book.
Hmm.
But it's topic driven, and it is to us and it is to the user. They want that information. So yeah, it's going to shake out, but we need some evidence behind our argument. And
Absolutely.
that's what data is going to provide.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Um, so as you examine how publishers and libraries are prioritizing certain trends, how are you making sure, you're reacting appropriately? In other words, how are you reality checking what publishers and library customers perceive to be important? And
Hmm.
how do you make sure this makes good business sense to you as a distributor?
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to equal opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. So for us, a special collection is just that. It's a collection of resources within a topic that can also be purchased individually.
Hmm.
You know, we're fortunate to represent all different types of publishers that have peer reviewed content. And I've talked a lot about that already.
Yep.
And we're also lucky to be working with all different types of libraries. But with that comes different types of collection development demands, different budgets, different priorities. And as a distributor, we don't value one over the other, right? So we don't focus on one health science program or specialty over another. We
Mm.
want to provide access to all the content, and then no matter what format it's in, as long as
Mm.
it's available. And then we want to make sure we have the tools and services to curate the collection that makes sense for the library and also for the publisher. We want to make sure that their content is available for sale right along with everybody else's.
Mhm.
It really does drive purchasing by our customers and publishing, right? So we do work, and that's what our sales team does, to understand the individual library's needs and then sell to that need. And we try to tie it back to the product that we distribute. It's always been an interesting place, but when we, you know, developed our digital platform, at the time, back in 2003, we looked at what wasn't available digitally. And then when we were fighting over how to price it, which it was a battle,
Yeah.
you know, again and again and again, the conversation on the table was we can't sell the big package because we're selling to libraries whose entire book budget is under $2,000. Right? And we want it. We want that $2,000. But so how can we create or curate something that works for that customer as well as the largest medical school, who might have more of a budget and can buy everything.
Mhm.
I know that doesn't really exist anymore, but just for context. So that's kind of how we make sure that we're reacting appropriately. And
Mhm.
so, again, we offer access to everything. We curate collections for those who want it, but we also make it available individually for those who don't. And we know with something like DEI, it's been woven now into curricula, into the books. It's a hot topic. So yeah, we're going to have a DEI collection. We're going to make it easy for that library to buy it. But if you put that DEI collection into your shopping cart, you can remove some of the resources. You don't have to buy the whole thing.
Whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really how we kind of make sure that we're not shoving it down someone's throat
Mhm.
and just reacting to what's going on.
Excellent. So I noticed that purchased ebooks remain in the collection for the life of the edition.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just curious, is this a model unique to the health sciences market, or are other distributors or aggregators offering different
Everybody
access?
offers different access
Yeah.
models. So, because the R2 Digital Library is not really a textbook platform, it's more of a research and
Right.
information platform. And it is specific to health sciences. You kind of need to see the path from where we've come. So
Mm.
if you're researching a disease, you need to see, okay, what happened 4 editions ago and how
Oh,
has
right.
that, moved to today.
Mhm.
And honestly, at the time when we were developing our library, we surveyed a lot and we had a super user group of librarians. And again and again and again, they felt very strongly that much like a print book, they've purchased it, it's part of their collection, they should retain access.
Mhm.
And so we built our model that when content is archived, it's branded as such, really important in health sciences. When it's an out of print book, they need to know it. It's not the most current relevant information, but they can still access that and their patrons can access that as part of their collection. It
Mhm.
is somewhat unique to Rittenhouse. Not a lot of people do that. They
Yeah.
automatically replace with a new edition. We give, and this goes back to budgets and how we kind of monitor ourselves, we give the library the choice to purchase the new edition or not, so they can look at their usage stats and they can inform that decision with evidence, but they still retain access to the old edition. So it has been really interesting. Our ebook platform is topic driven. Again, so I mentioned this earlier, you can search on a topic, you get everybody's answer to that question. It's really how we architected the platform. And the libraries can opt in or out to have that archived content available,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, okay.
So if they don't want it available in their search results, then they can say no. The user can go in and search archived content, but it doesn't have to be integrated.
Mm.
So, every library looks at that and has a different philosophy. So, we try to, again, be, everything to everyone as an
Yeah.
aggregator. And that seemed like the simple answer to that, difficult question.
Right. Right. Excellent. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, Nicole.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You just heard from Nicole Gallo, Executive Vice President at Rittenhouse Book Distributors. This series is brought to you with support from Rittenhouse. As always, underwriting opportunities for the Authority File podcast are directed by Choice's Advertising Director, Pam Marino, and all of our episodes are produced and edited by Choice's digital media producer, Sabrina Kofer, with support from digital media assistant, Ashley Roy. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.